Hello and welcome to Change MakerZ, a student-run show focused on Gen Z activism. I will be your host this week, Zia Faqiri, and with me is Gray McDevitt, who is the co-president of Students Against Sexual Violence. Hi, Gray.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. My name is Gray. Like you said, I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Manasquan, New Jersey. I'm currently working towards my bachelor's in social work, so I'm a junior at JMU right now. And yeah, I'm the co-president of Students Against Sexual Violence. I also hold a position on campus where I'm the student sexual misconduct coordinator. So that means that I'm kind of a student representative for students on campus working with the president's Coalition to End Sexual Violence.
Okay, and can you talk a little bit about why you chose to go into the social work major?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my family, my grandma is a social worker, as well as my neighbor growing up, who my family was very close to. So I think just being around them has kind of given me like a sense of compassion for other people, and I've always like grown up like volunteering because of them. That growing up like that, it's kind of like opened my eyes to that being my passion, is helping others.
And what type of volunteer work have you done in the past?
Yeah, so when I was younger, my family actually started a like fundraiser soccer marathon in memory of my sister's childhood best friend who passed away from cancer. So that was really my first experience with volunteering. I remember being like so passionate about that at a young age, and then like throughout the process of that. Also, since I've come to JMU, I've been involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is an organization off of campus that helps to like mentor children from the community. And yeah, I would say those are the two big ones.
And can you talk a little bit more about your role in the bigger initiative and what you do in that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess going into Students Against Sexual Violence first. So SASV was founded in 2017 because of a mishandling by JMU of a Title IX case. So I wasn't around for that. But when I became a member my freshman year, I just like became very passionate about the issue. And so the three, I guess, main initiatives that SASV does is we do consent education. So what we do for that is we have a presentation, which is a PowerPoint presentation, and we have facilitators within our organization that go around to different fraternities, sororities, social organizations in general, typically people that have like a party scene within their organization and where that is a high-risk environment with like drugs, alcohol, lots of people. So we go to their chapters or their meetings and we present to them about things like consent, what sexual violence is, how to be a good ally to others, how to be an active bystander, and things pertaining to that. We also do policy work, so we meet with Tim Miller a couple times a month where we talk about how we can work with administration to make changes that are helpful to students, whether that be in the victim advocacy department or whether that be in Title IX itself or with the JMU PD with how we're responding when sexual violence occurs at JMU. And then lastly, we do survivor empowerment. So I don't know if you guys know, this month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So we have a lot of events this month aimed around survivor empowerment and uplifting people. Like there's Victim Advocacy does Take Back the Night, which is a speak out. We do tabling on Denim Day, as well as we put up flags in the quad as a demonstration to show the amount of people on campus that will be affected by sexual violence, as well as many other tabling and social media events that we have throughout the month. So yeah, that's Students Against Sexual Violence. And then I guess going into the President's Coalition to End Sexual Violence, that's rather new. So that started, I guess, May of 2022. And so that is the Dean of Students, Holly Hall, Tim Miller, myself, and Lexi Burns, who is also a co-president of Students Against Sexual Violence. And we work as co-chairs to kind of the same mission as Students Against Sexual Violence. Currently, we're working on a website that is kind of like all-inclusive of all information you could possibly need as a survivor, as a friend of a survivor, as a parent of a survivor, just one place where all information regarding sexual violence can be found. So we're working on kind of like an interactive hub right now for that, but yeah.
And can you talk a little bit more about why you decided to join this coalition and this organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I identify as a survivor, so I've experienced sexual violence myself. So that's why it is such like I'm so passionate about this issue, as well as once I got involved in the work. So I got involved in the work because actually my therapist recommended that like it is very healing to do advocacy when you've experienced a certain event. So I got involved in this and I just became very close with the person who was president when I was a freshman, and I kind of like definitely looked up to her. Like she was the reason that I continued doing it. But yeah, I guess just like every now and then there will be people that will like thank you for your work and be like, this is making such an impact, or you can see the impact that it's making. And I feel like that's definitely like what keeps me doing this. But I guess what made me join in the first place is definitely that I'm a survivor myself.
And you mentioned impact. Can you describe what changes you've noticed since this organization was founded?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I'm definitely in like a kind of closed bubble with SASV. So like I'm definitely seeing change within our organization. But also, especially when we go to consent education events, like we'll have fraternity brothers like after the presentation come up to us and be like, I'm like, this is so embarrassing, but I didn't know so much of this information. Like, this is like really making an impact. Or we'll like meet with exec boards for different organizations that have like a social life and like are part of the party scene at JMU. And we'll kind of help them take initiatives where they'll have like a sober brother that is like an active bystander that is trained for like knowing how to intervene in those situations. Just different, I think, not that I've seen the change, but I know that there are so many more like things implemented since I came to JMU than there was before. So yeah, I think really just like seeing how many different initiatives are being taken and how much more people are like educated on this issue through this work. Yeah.
And there was a simulation at the beginning of the year that everyone was required to take that focused on sexual assault and sexual harassment. Have you, did that simulation help at all?
Yeah, so I guess it's hard to like measure like whether that helped or not. I guess that would be more of, I guess, a long-term thing to be able to notice. But I will say that in regards to that, there was a lot of backlash on that like simulation. A lot of people found it very, very triggering and not like sensitive to the material, and that was just like not the helpful thing to do. I know that next year they are keeping Cognito. That's right what it's called. Mm-hmm. They're keeping Cognito and they're getting rid of Everfi, which is like the other thing we used to do. I know I took that my freshman year. I think the thing that is so difficult about simulations like that is one, when it's like a role play situation like that, it's very difficult to include sexual violence in it because that can be uncomfortable and triggering for a lot of people, specifically survivors. But there's also the other hand of it where if people need to be uncomfortable when talking about this issue. So I think the discomfort is necessary, but there's also like the other hand where that can be very triggering to people. So I think there could be accommodations definitely with that. But yeah, I think in the long term, like when people, I think just, yeah, strengthening that and just trying to enforce people like taking courses like that as much as possible is important, because I think that at the root of it, people just need to be educated more on sex, on consent, on what sexual violence is.
Is there anything that JMU does or doesn't do differently compared to other universities when it comes to sexual assault or sexual violence?
Yeah, well, I would say specifically, I'm not sure compared to other universities, but I know our victim advocacy department is very strong. Like, I know that we have been able to do a lot of things with that. I think we have a lot of confidential resources, which I think is very important. I'm honestly not sure how to compare it to other universities, but I would say, yeah, definitely our strengths are our victim advocacy department and how many confidential resources we have, as well as like a lot of policies. Like, I know a new policy we have within our Title IX office is that you can fill out a no contact order with somebody that you accuse, whether they are found guilty or not. And you can do that at any point, and you don't need to file a report for that. So I think that's really important, because I think that a lot of people don't understand that how difficult reporting can be for survivors, and that not everyone wants to report, and that's why statistics are so skewed. So yeah, I would say the no contact order, that is a new thing, the victim advocacy department, as well as just like how many communities of survivors we have on campus, like Students Against Sexual Violence. We're connected with a lot of other orgs. We partner with a lot of other orgs, as well as the Coalition to End Sexual Violence. I think that it's really important knowing how much staff and faculty is also passionate about making this change.
Yeah. And you mentioned that SASV is putting on some events this month for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so actually this upcoming Monday, we have a event called How to Be a Good Ally. So that'll basically be a presentation of us talking about what the best ways to be a good ally are. We are also partnering with SOGI for that. And so they are talking about how to be a good ally to the queer community, and we are talking about how to be a good ally to survivors of sexual violence, also discussing how the two issues intersect with each other. So we have that upcoming on Monday. And then later this month, on the 26th, we are doing Denim Day. So if you don't know what Denim Day is, so Denim Day is basically a day celebrated each year for people to stand in solidarity with survivors by wearing denim. This was because in the 80s there was a rape case where a woman was sexually assaulted by her taxi driver, and when they went to court, it was ruled not guilty because the perpetrator said that if he really raped her, then she would have had to help him take her jeans off because they were too tight. So that's basically contributes a lot to victim blaming. So on this day, we kind of talk about how to combat the anti-survivor rhetoric and how to stop victim blaming and stand in solidarity and support and believe survivors. So we wear denim on that day. And also later that same day, I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but we've done this the past 3 years where we put over 6,000 teal flags on the quad, and that's supposed to represent the amount of undergraduate students at JMU that will experience sexual violence. So I think that is just such a powerful demonstration because that just kind of puts into perspective how often this is happening and how many people this is happening to. I know the statistic right now is 1 in 4 women and 1 in 16 men. So I think that just puts into perspective, people that have been affected by this, even if you haven't yourself. I feel like I'm forgetting events. But yeah, we have a lot. Our Instagram is SASVJMU, so I'll just plug that. We have all our information on there.
Yeah, and is there anything else that you would like to add that I didn't ask?
Just for everybody watching, it's really important to get involved in this issue because this takes a culture change to change the culture of sexual violence on our campus and on any campus and in the world. So I guess just being a good ally yourself, becoming informed on consent and sexual violence and practicing it and talking about it with your friends and colleagues and in the spaces that you're in are all just really important things and playing your role. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, that was Gray McDevitt. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Stay tuned for the next episode.